Okay, over to you, Gordon, for our welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It is only going to be a very brief welcome because the things that are going to be said by all of you are far more important than anything I can say. All I will say is that it's a very welcome approach to have clubs sharing information with each other, and I'm glad that Tim's managed to organise this for you. And we should remember that Zoom technology is something that we've got used to, but a couple of years ago, a meeting like this simply wouldn't have been possible because of people coming from all over the country. So I do hope you enjoy the meeting and get a lot from it. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. And could I have screen share, Jonathan? I think I can already do this. Let me see. Yes, that looks good. Okay, that's what we want.
Helps I come off mute, but yes, it's enabled.
Yeah. Yeah, that should work. Well, welcome again to everybody, and thank you for giving up your time to hear more about clubs teaching bridge, and also to all our presenters for sharing their experiences. Just to set a few expectations, we have a lot packed into a short session. I've asked the presenters to be very concise, and I will be ruthless in moderating. Maybe in future we should plan for a much longer, more leisurely session, and your feedback on that is welcome. But this one is about picking up ideas, following up the ones that you want to. We do have unlimited time for discussion at the end. Most of our presenters will be happy to take questions by email or a phone call later. Some of them have additional notes that we can make available. If you do have comments or questions during the session, and we really do want to hear from you, I'd like to encourage you to use the chat feature in Zoom and just ask it there. That makes it very easy for us to pick up and respond. And if necessary, we can always ask you to explain further verbally, but it will speed things up and help us to keep track. So I've got a brief sort of big picture presentation. Why do we teach bridge? And I wanted to remind you that we do so because it's a fantastic game. We asked our own club, for some of the members of our own club, why they like bridge, and we got some wonderful responses. We asked, for permission, can we use these in our sort of marketing to new players? And they agreed to do that. So great idea. And it just was really encouraging to me to see all these things coming back, and how this is just a fraction of the ones that we got, how important bridge is to lots of people, and for some, especially during the lockdown, a real lifesaver. So that's why we do it. We think it's wonderful. We think we're giving people a great gift by teaching it. But I have to add that in general, this is a difficult time for bridge. People don't learn at home as they used to. Most of our clubs are mainly elderly. Few young people are learning. And the impact of the lockdown, while it did give us the benefit of a huge improvement in online bridge, had a severe impact on clubs, which are typically at around 70% of their numbers pre-pandemic. There is a wide variation in that. Some of them are bigger now than they used to be, so all sorts of variations. But the truth is that clubs that are not bringing in new players do face inevitable decline, and that will be potentially quite a rapid decline, bearing in mind our demographics. What is the hardest part of teaching? Well, it's not actually the teaching. Our focus at the EBU is on clubs. We know that learning bridge is a journey. It's an enjoyable one, but also a long one. And we want our clubs to thrive. That means that the goal is not just to teach bridge as an end in itself, but to add to the club's long-term players. And unfortunately, there are many obstacles to this. It's not uncommon that a club teaches, say, 8 new players, but finds that only a couple of them end up playing in the club, which is very disappointing and dispiriting. We call this topic retention. It's a huge issue, not just for us, but all around the world, clubs have found this. What it means, though, is simple. Before setting up teaching, it really is essential to plan what happens after the new students have completed the course. It does make sense. One doesn't start out on any journey without knowing the destination. And I've just put here some of the reasons that we're familiar with, probably why it is difficult to transition from learning bridge, having a nice time in your class, and then playing in a club session. And particularly take note of this problem where a single incident where some player is a bit gruff and says, you hesitated, you're not allowed to do that. I'll have words with you later. They never come back. You've lost them forever, so it really is super important. So this next slide has a rather cheeky title. Of course, there's many more things to successful bridge teaching than just this listed here, but really I'm addressing this topic of retention. This has been a learning journey for me personally as well. When I joined the EBU as Membership Development Officer, I was convinced that clubs should do everything possible to graft new players onto their normal club session despite the obstacles. And typically that does not work well. People who learn together want to play together with the new friends they've made and who are of a similar standard. I am no longer fearful of the idea of clubs within clubs or sessions that don't much intermingle. If the club is big enough, that is a much better outcome than novices who don't play at all. New players will join the club session in a trickle from a gentle duplicate session as a natural progression when they want a bit more challenge. Big clubs know this, and they have multiple session types with different tiers. It's a strategy that works well in some of our largest clubs, who get a much better retention than that sort of 20% that I was mentioning. The harder question, I guess, is what can smaller clubs do? And this is a matter to which we give a lot of thought. Shortly after I've spoken, we'll be hearing from David Adams in Nottinghamshire, where several clubs, including West Bridgeford, where I used to be a member, got together to teach bridge. There are some tricky questions about that sort of process, like which club gets the new players and so on, but it has worked. Another possibility is that a county association might teach bridge for clubs. A larger cohort of learners has all sorts of advantages, not least that they can play together in a good short bridge session that is a real duplicate bridge as part of their bridge journey. What about clubs that don't have a teacher at all? The EBU is working hard to connect clubs with teachers, but there are always options, especially with improvements in online bridge teaching. One club sends their students to another club to learn online, and then welcomes them back for gentle duplicate face-to-face, for example. It is super important that, teacher or no teacher, every club has a positive story to tell, an inquirer who says to them, I want to learn bridge. They are vital to the future of our clubs and of bridge. There are even strategies if a club only has one session and no possibility of more. The important thing there is to get the whole club behind it. You can have beginner tables alongside the other tables, perhaps playing the same boards but scored separately. You can have help available if a hand is raised. Another possibility is a pro-am session where each novice has a regular member as a partner to guide them, or maybe one or two such partners in a regular session. Don't worry about NGS, there are ways around that. The directing is so critical here. We welcome novices warmly. We treat them like VIPs, not like strangers. We don't worry if they consult their cards or notes, or pause for a think, or run out of time for the third board in the round. We want to help them to have fun. In the end, we all play for enjoyment. And finally, a few words on resources. Both the EBU and EBED, our sister organisation, have a lot of resources available for bridge development and teaching, and more planned. And we will be hearing from Tony Russ, one of our board members, later about this. We are running further online seminars next year with more detail on best practice in teaching and transition. We offer teacher training, and Mark from EBED will tell us more about that later. And I also want to mention that joining EBTA, the English Bridge Teachers Association, is an absolute bargain. It gets you discounted books, free professional indemnity insurance, and more important, a handbank of over 800 fully commented boards that you can import into an online platform or your favourite tool for presenting boards in classes. We also have around 2,000 teaching slides ready to go, software for displaying and playing back boards, and a programme of support and training. Well, that's all from me, but you can contact me anytime, tim@ebu.co.uk. I'll do my best to help. So now I hope David Adams is here from Keyworth. We got David. Yeah, you're muted at the moment. There we are.
Thank you. Hello, good morning, everybody. Accustomed I am to public speaking lately, I've learnt a few tips and hints from my 10-year-old grandson last night, who did a course on storytelling. I'm not here to tell a story, I'm here to try and produce the facts of what we've done locally in the light of over 5 years of experience, and I'm trying to compress that into 10 minutes. So I will try to get on with it as quickly as possible. I hope it's coherent. I haven't done slides because I think if you could listen to the story, it will help, and we can make the paper and the notes that I've put down available to you via Tim after this session. Okay, cast your mind back pre-COVID, back to 2017. Many of the things that Tim's highlighted and what the EBU and EBED have done did not really exist in great structured form at that time. A number of us in clubs in South Nottinghamshire in the county, the borough of Rushcliffe, had similar problems. We were 4 diverse clubs: East Bridgeford, West Bridgeford, and Phoenix, Ruddington, and Keyworth. We had memberships between 50 and 130-ish members, but no single club had enough resources to do all that we aspired to do in terms of attracting new members and players. And we faced lots of similar issues and challenges. And a number of us felt convinced that we could do something about it to help the club and the game of bridge thrive and actually expand. In the background, there didn't seem to be a lot of initiative to actually promote bridge and to train newcomers and make it friendly. So that was kind of the background in late 2017. As I said, there were falling numbers, very few new members. There was some intimidation, as Tim has indicated, by long established and superior bridge players. As I said, not much promotion centrally by either the county or the EBU at that time, not that we were aware of. And at the same time, there wasn't really a clear, reasonable syllabus to actually get this achieved in a reasonable period of time. Most of the existing syllabus at that time relied on 2 years of slog and training, and we didn't feel that was feasible in the day and age when we started. So we formed a key team, all members of the 4 local clubs who had some motivations, some business background, professionals and IT people, and we got it done. We tried to identify the issues and how we would set this up. And there were many, many steps and threads to it. We had these champions embedded in the 4 clubs. We recognised the need for promotion and publicity, which we organised, largely not paying for it, with free press and events. We did use local libraries. We created flyers and posters and utilised the EBU material that became available during that period. We had no money, and we managed to get a grant from the county to actually start this initiative, but we were also backed by our clubs, and we had some scene crawl funding of £500. We didn't want to make profit, but we needed to get it set up and do it in a business-like manner. None of us had property, none of us actually had physical clubs, so we were virtual. We agreed to plan. We actually recruited many volunteers and helpers from within the club. We actually trained a large number of people to actually deliver, and we took advantage of the EBED teacher training courses that were on at that time, and 4 or 5 of us actually trained to become teachers. I must take my thanks to Mervyn Jones, who was a key promoter and activist at that time, who did a lot to actually translate and put material into PowerPoint, structure the slides, and to actually help with the delivery. The promotion went well. We had a lot of interest. We captured all the details. It was no mean feat to actually assimilate what the aspirations of people were, because some of them were non-card players, some of them had dabbled in whist, some of them had even some rubber bridge experience, and some club experience, but they wanted to come back and actually start to formalise their bridge training. So we had a diverse audience of students. And also, we recruited the helpers. They were vital. But we were also lucky. We found that EBED had actually just introduced the new fast-track bridge course, which was a series of lessons at 12 hours to learn bridge, from basic card play and bidding to game style play and simple ACOL, adopting the modern standard ACOL conventions. We started our first course at the end of January 2018. with daytime students who were primarily retirees and pre-retirees, but we also needed to try and attract younger people who perhaps were still at work. So we planned a second course, which was really challenging, to try and teach bridge to people over 2 weekends, 4 sessions, which was no mean feat. I think Tim was around at that time, and we did it in the Edwarton Golf Club, and it was extremely successful. It was so successful, in fact, that our current chairman and our current financial controller at Keyworth Bridge Club are trainees and students from that course. Okay, so we did those first couple of courses, we iterated, we found out, we did surveys, we found out that it was important to do run-ons because people hadn't all absorbed all of the information and the syllabus. So we set up some free experience sessions after each of those courses, and people enjoyed that. And we found that then there was still resistance and reluctance to go to join the clubs. There was still, from what was a 10% conversion rate prior to the courses, we were getting to 15, maybe 20%. It was still low. And that is still an issue today. That is still something we've still got to tackle. I'll come on to that in a bit more detail. How am I doing for time? I think I've got another 5 minutes in. So what did we learn? Primarily the feedback. The customer is king. The trainees provided us with good feedback. The cost rating was that we managed to charge £95 per person at the time, which was a significant amount of money for people to fork out, but it included the fast track hard copy syllabus, which was £22 from the Bridge Warehouse or EBED. We had a whole raft of volunteers who helped at each table, supervising play, helping to nudge students to actually think about what they were doing in terms of bid and play, and that worked well. So we had a big cohort of volunteers, and it began to really bed down. And we iterated, and we moved our teaching up, and we had a great attitude. I think that the founders and the club chairman and people at the time were very supportive, and that was vital. We communicated both ways. We communicated to students, and we communicated back to club officials. There was still some intimidation. We set up 1 or 2 no fear sessions at the beginning in parallel with club sessions so that people were not so intimidated. And things were really going well. We run 3, 4, we were on to our 5th course come early 2020. And then everything hit the buffers. We ran into COVID. That basically stopped a lot of bridge everywhere. It actually stopped all of our training initiatives. We were mid-course 5, and it was a real challenge. We consulted with some of the trainees at the time and decided what did you want to do? Suspend the course, go back to it when hopefully things will improve. And half of the course wanted to actually continue. And again, Mervyn Jones and one other person actually managed to get 6 people through the course with the help of Zoom and BBO. That was a real challenge, trying to knit that together, but the people enjoyed it. The others took the option to retain their fees and to come back to another course later, post-COVID. During COVID, we kept a watching brief. We had some meetings and decided that we would try to get back to bridge when it was right. So late last year, when clubs began to return to face-to-face bridge, late last year, early this year, we decided that we would look to establish a 6th course. It was imperative to actually increase the tuition time to about 16 hours, but to also have the run-on and to look at how do we look at protected sessions to introduce students to clubs. We still haven't cracked that fully, but we're working hard on it. As Tim said, that is a vital bridge. Our surveys and feedback said that over 60% of the students gave us either good or excellent reports in terms of the course content, the facilities, and everything else. We had great rooms, we did our research, and we structured it well. So going forward, what next? We've agreed to resume our efforts. As I said, we're nearly through course 6. We've increased the number of students to 20 from 16, maximised. So that means more helpers. We've got an array of people across the 4 clubs. We've got good venues. We've reduced the fees to just over £60 per person. We are looking to develop more sheltered sessions for beginners in line with the EBU initiatives. And we believe that the model has worked.
I just want to thank you very much, David. We're pretty much out of time, but I know there's so many. I'm so inspired by the way that you got the clubs together, you got your volunteers together, and you've made a success of that, where any one club on its own would have really struggled. I know you're all going to have questions about that, and we'll want to see David's notes that he's kindly provided. So please do follow up on that. Thank you so much. I want to welcome, yes, in answer to the question, we will provide a copy of my slides as well. I want to welcome 3 members of our own students at Winchester. That's Nick and Joe Page and Fiona Wallace. So if you could unmute yourselves, if you're one of those 3 people. And I thought it'd be great to hear from some bridge novices about their perspective on things. And first of all, question for you, Joe, if I may.
Tim, Joe's just got.
Yeah.
Joe.
Oh, okay. Well, I can ask. Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Hello, Tim.
Hello. Yeah, I was going to ask you, Joe. So, why bother? What do you enjoy about bridge? Why have you stuck with it?
Well, and I've just canvassed the others I'm playing with, because we all play with your gentle duplicate. We enjoy the puzzle of it all. It's never the same hand twice, and you always have to work it out. We enjoy the sociability of it all. We've all met lots of new people through playing, and that's been very enjoyable. It's always a challenge, which I think is good for all of us, and we enjoy learning a new skill. And you know, it's good cerebral activity. So those are the things we really enjoy.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Nick, you can do your chair swap. What is the best thing that a club can do to keep you playing once you've actually learnt the game? What can we do to keep you at it? Because I mean, David's just been saying that it had a big dropout rate of people. So what can we do to help?
Well, actually, I think what you've done at the Winchester Club has been brilliant. I think maximising the use of online. I don't know what would have happened without online bridge, and I think that's been hugely important, and the variation in the ability and timing of that. I think the real challenge to some is being put off by the fear of playing with better players, and perhaps having different groups in as regards their ability. I know that's very difficult. And I think the supportive environment is hugely important, not to put people off. And I think the supervised play, etc., encourages people to keep going when they might have doubts, rather than being thrust into a more competitive environment. And I think that's been really important.
Yeah, brilliant. That's really helpful. So Fiona, I can't see at the moment, but hopefully you're here.
I'm here.
I was going to ask you, what has been the biggest challenge to coming in to learn bridge? I don't know whether you'd had any previous experience of the game before you started the classes, I think with Margaret, our teacher.
Yeah, I tried to learn before in Surrey before COVID, and it was very off-putting for all the reasons mentioned. I found at Winchester it's been just so much better. From the classes, finding the classes was easy through the English Bridge Union. Margaret as a teacher is great. That led on to the club, which has been very welcoming. And the transition from doing intense classes to supervised play sort of online, and then actually turning up at the club wasn't too bad. People are very welcoming, very kind, and very encouraging. I'm now sort of, there's the next bit of going from being supervised play, supervised gentle duplicate online up at the club to actually turning up and becoming a full member. So that's my next transition. And what somebody was saying about having some sort of mentoring system where maybe you have one session or one table every now and again that I could, for me, example, but other people maybe attend 4 times to play with somebody that's already playing at the next level, just so I can see whether I am up to speed, because this isn't intimidation, as you mentioned, is you don't want to let your partner down and the table down and the clock down. And I think some of us are much better than we think. If you actually took away our crib sheets, I think that could be quite encouraged at times, that, you know, you sort of got to get on with it and practice, practice, practice. And therefore, if you had a mentor that you played with somebody that was already playing at your next level up for a few times, you could say, oh, actually, it's okay. And then that would just take the next step going. I mean, I will keep playing because I like it, again, for the social aspect, meeting people. And it has been so flexible with COVID and people coming and going over the summer and things like that. I think it's been great experience.
So going back to Joe, following on from that, you know, what are the things that would be the biggest challenges, do you feel, for coming in to join one of our club sessions, whether that might be online or the face-to-face that we run?
Overcoming nerves, I think, because it is a big leap. I tried it once with Nick, and I found playing that number of is it hands, rounds, whatever you call it, was really quite a challenge, because you were playing at a much faster pace. I think really you're doing all the right things though, because the gentle duplicate and the supervised play sessions are really helping us towards that, and they make a huge difference, and you support us so well in those that we feel more confident. I think the problem is perhaps that we all we really enjoy the gentle duplicate and the supervised play, and maybe we need something to push us up, maybe a group of us at once going up, so that it isn't quite as daunting. Because there's a bit of a gulf between our level and the next level, and it is just, you know, if there were a few of us doing it, we might not feel quite so exposed.
Yeah, thank you very much, all three of you. Any final comments before we move on? And thank you also for being here. It must be a bit intimidating with all these experienced bridge teachers, but you're really, really welcome. It's great to hear from you.
No, I just want to say a huge thank you. I think you have, I mean, look at how many players you've got coming in now through all your support and your sessions that you're running for us, and it's just brilliant. So
yeah, and a lot of clubs would tell the same story, because I know how much amazing work is being done by clubs. So it's emphatically not our club, you know, it is the EBU clubs between them that are doing this. And yeah, thank you for just expressing how super important that is. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I want to ask now Chris Green from Ipswich and Kesgrave. He's going to tell us a little bit about how the club work with the community to recruit players and about what happens after they've been recruited. So, Chris, I hope you're here.
I am indeed.
You are. Excellent. Welcome.
Hello. So I'm Chris Green. I'm from the Ipswich and Kesgrave Bridge Club. I'm responsible for bridge development. So the teaching thing falls under my remit. I think I got invited because I think Ipswich as a club has sort of slightly bucked the trend of numbers. So pre-COVID, we used to average, we had one session, it was averaged about 16 tables. We now run 3 sessions, and on a good week we get somewhere in the mid-30s in terms of number of tables. 2 of our sessions are online, 1 of our sessions is face-to-face. In terms of how we got to where we are, I think a lot of it is initially was to read Tim's slides at the beginning, and essentially that's the journey we've been on. We've been running teaching courses since 2010. Not started by other people who got the thing up and running, and our retention rate is exactly what everybody else was talking about. Was pretty poor, and for all the reasons that Tim and others have explained: intimidation, scary, coming bottom all the time, all this sort of stuff. So as teachers, it's sort of frustrating, I guess. At some level, it doesn't matter as long as they're playing somewhere. But clearly, it would be nice if they would play a game that we organised. And what was clear is that we weren't offering a game that they wanted to play in. So we needed to either just accept that, or we need to actually offer something that the people we were teaching would want to play in. So what we have currently is we have what we call a relax session on a Monday evenings. It's online because it started during COVID, where we get an average of about 12 tables. I don't know whether this answers the lady's question about speed, but we play 16 boards and there's 10 minutes a board. The slightly quirky thing about what we do compared with others, it's supervised, but the boards are generated, are random. So they are entirely random, and we send a commentary out the next day or the day after with a summary of what could, should, or would have happened. By creating this online session, and I guess COVID in a way helped us here, because the people we taught online, we certainly continued teaching when COVID hit. We sort of basically, as a club, we sort of embraced it, as it were. And I think one of the reasons the numbers have held up so well is because we were one of the first ones in. During COVID, if people wanted to play a game, they didn't really have anywhere else to go other than an online game. So the retention rate of the students we had at that point is incredibly high. We might have kept, I don't know, 80% of the students in terms of providing a game, and they are still with us. So I guess that's sort of where we are. I guess we've recognised that we need to offer a different game. We've created a thing we call the relax game. It runs on a different evening, because if you go back, we used to try and do it all on the same night, and I think that just never worked. So we now have created a completely sort of separate entity which runs on a different evening. The plan is, and I'll explain why we think we need to do this in a second. The plan is then to start a face-to-face equivalent of the online relax game. So on Monday evenings, in addition to the online game, we will have a face-to-face game. We will play the same boards, so they will get the benefit or otherwise of the summary that comes out afterwards. And we will try and make that as relaxed as we possibly can in terms of being welcoming, not scary, have a break in the middle, all this sort of stuff. Because I think one of the things we as a club has recognised is is plenty of competition out there for so there's lots of people doing lots of good things in terms of providing bridge, but they're not necessarily bridge clubs. So to make it something they want to play in, it's got to be as good as what they're providing. So we're going to hopefully start that it's sort of Q2, Q3 next year, which I think leads on to sort of where we currently are. So having improved our retention rate by offering this face-to-face game, we want to obviously take advantage of that. We are currently having an initiative with Suffolk Libraries. So one of our teachers, because Ipswich has a number of teachers, knew the CEO of Suffolk Libraries, and we are now doing through Suffolk Libraries basically a whole bunch of bridge teaching. I suspect if we counted everybody who was, say, within a 15-mile radius of our bridge club, we're probably teaching about 100 people. So it would be nice if we could hold on to some of them. But at the moment, we don't actually have a game to offer them. They will want to play face-to-face, almost certainly. They do not want to play online because, as a number of people have said, the game is a sociable game, and that's one of the main reasons they're playing. They want to meet people, make friends, and it's more difficult to do that online. So we need to have a face-to-face game that is of a similar, I guess, relaxed nature to the current online game that we're running on a Monday evening. So sometime in Q2, Q2 probably next year, we are going to start a face-to-face relaxed game on a Monday evening. Clearly, success is not guaranteed by any means, but if we have anything like the retention rate we've had with from our recent dabble into online, we should be able to create a successful face-to-face game. But I think the key moment for us was identifying that the thing that we were offering was not what people wanted to play in, and we either had to recognize that fact, acknowledge the fact, and do something different, or we would continue to fail in the same way we'd failed before. The old keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Definition of madness. This library project has really I think has demonstrated to us, given the numbers that we're seeing, that there's a tremendous desire out there for people to learn to play this game. Because I say we're in the process of setting up another course to start in February next year, and we're already in double figures, and we haven't really advertised it yet. So there is a tremendous desire out there. The challenge for clubs is to, I guess, have an infrastructure that supports that, which fortunately we do, but then equally find a way of keeping them once you've gone. And hopefully we're doing better than we were. I guess, I don't know, obviously I don't know other counties, but this library project that we have seems to be something that could be replicated. Suffolk Libraries seem to have, they've got spaces. They're underused largely, as far as we can tell, and they may not like me saying this, but they're almost falling over themselves to try and take advantage of what we're offering. And across the county, not just in the part of the county that I'm responsible for, there's been a fantastic take up. I mean, they've been in Bury St Edmunds, another town in Suffolk, they've been turning them away because they just haven't got enough capacity to teach all the people who want to be taught.
Thank you so much, Chris. I think we're just about out of time. But anything else? Last thing to add, or is that that's so helpful? Yeah. Thank you so much. And work with the libraries, brilliant. So I just want to ask Mark Humphris from EBED to very briefly keep us up to date with what's happening about teacher training. Mark.
Yeah, hi Tim, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, and you should be able to see my screen in a second. Let's see. That's good. Can you see my screen as well?
No.
Why isn't that happening? I'm sharing that, guys. What's happening? I'm not seeing that. Share. Maybe it's me.
That's looking better. Yeah, we can see now.
Great. A second and I'm not ready. Okay, so good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Humphris. I'm the Education and Development Manager for EBED, which is English Bridge Education and Development, which is the national charity for the development and furtherance of bridge. I'm going to talk about training for bridge teachers. An effective bridge teaching program requires confident teachers that have been trained to do the difficult task of teaching our game and who are supported with high quality materials and resources. So they know both they have to know both how to teach and what to teach. And EBED supports you in achieving this in two ways. Firstly, we own and we publish the Bridge for All syllabus, which is the complete learn and play program. It was developed by the EBU, and it's a curriculum that takes players from complete novice through to competent club players. We also provide highly successful training courses that equip individuals with the skills and the knowledge and the confidence to become a bridge teacher and use the Bridge for All curriculum effectively. These courses have been running for many years and are taught by highly experienced professional bridge teachers, actually some of whom are on this call at the moment, so that's very useful.
Mark, it looks like you're stationary on one slide. Are you clicking more slides?
No, I haven't got there yet. You're ahead of me.
Thank you.
The excitement is yet to come, so stay with me. Yes, I'm going to look now at our options for teacher training. Okay, so firstly, we have our face-to-face club teacher training course, and that's our most popular offer. That is it's a 2-day classroom-based course. It's very popular. And it's been held in several locations this year, and they tend to sell out. Okay, this is aimed at the potential teacher who wants to deliver traditional classroom-based bridge lessons in a face-to-face learning environment. It's based on teaching the Bridge for All syllabus, and you'll learn the skills to teach bridge and get to practice planning and delivering a bridge lesson. You'll learn different teaching methods and styles. And importantly, you'll learn how to use mini bridge to get your students hooked on the game. It's a proven way to get novices playing cards at lesson 1, so they start enjoying the game immediately and come back for more. Okay, that's a really important part of any teaching program. But additionally, there's a huge range of online material that EBED and EBED supply. Tim mentioned this in the introduction. So we help make our teachers aware of all the material that is available to support that Bridge for All syllabus, and show teachers how to use that material to plan lessons and set supervised play sessions. Now, we've also got another offer, which is an online teaching course. Now, this is a little bit different. It's aimed specifically at either the potential teacher who wants to deliver their lessons solely via an online platform, or for existing Bridge teachers who want to branch out and start to use the online platforms to supplement their existing teaching or play sessions. So the focus of this course is very much about how to get the best out of the online tools that are available. So we demonstrate using BBO, Real Bridge. There's some demonstration of Shark Bridge there, and you also learn how to use Zoom really effectively in a teaching environment. Okay, so note this isn't a simple copy of our classroom-based course delivered online. It's a very specific online offer for people who want to be teaching in an online environment only. Okay, so please be aware of that if you're interested in booking that course, just to be sure you understand exactly what you're signing up for. Okay, so just lastly, let's look at how to book. So we've got new dates for the first quarter of next year for our face-to-face course. We've got, we're running one in Ipswich, actually with the Ipswich and Kesgrave Club. We'll be running one in Solihull, Horsham and London, and there will be more to come through the year. This is just the program for the first quarter that I'm talking about here. And just a reminder, you know, most of these sold out last year, so don't procrastinate if you are thinking of booking. It is worth getting a space, because a lot of people got disappointed last year when they couldn't get on some of our courses. So I will be adding more dates throughout the year. If at a club level you think there's demand in your area, perhaps with one or more clubs, please get in touch with me. I'd be really interested in hearing from people who think there might be a demand to train some teachers in their own area. We hopefully will be able to work with you and set something up to do that. Okay. The online course is running in January, and it's really important to point out here that the EBU offers generous subsidies. So you either subsidise places, and even free places are available through the EBU for those who book through member clubs. Okay, you can get more details on the EBU's website for that, or Jonathan can help with the details because he administers that scheme. Okay, if you need more details on the courses themselves, that's the link to find more EBED, our EBED website, or just Google EBED, and you can contact me and ask me more questions about these courses. I think that's all I plan to say, and I reckon I've done that in less than 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop sharing and hand back to Tim. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. That's really helpful, and do take advantage of those things. Lots there. So I want to just when I first came across the sort of teaching that we offer, I had a concern that it felt a bit too much like I was going back to school and doing textbooks and exams and all that sort of thing. And so I've asked Charlie to tell us a little bit about what he does to reassure Bridge learners that actually they're learning a game and they're going to enjoy it and it's going to be good fun, and a bit more about what he does at Bucknell Bridge. So Charlie, over to you.
Thanks, Tim. Morning all. So I'll try and keep it brief. I think most of you know that it's not very fun sitting around listening to someone drone on and on for hours and hours. So I'll try and keep it as short as possible. So just to start you off, have a little think, what would you open on this hand over here? No, I'm not giving you a lesson. I'm just giving you an idea of what sort of things you can give to your students, something to think about throughout the whole lesson, just in the back of their mind in case they get bored. So this will pop up at the end again, but it's always nice to have something always happening. So those that are very fast and on it, that they have something to do whilst the slightly slower students are still catching up, because there's always going to be a disparity in the pace. So in most of my lessons, I'm a very, very boring chap. I don't like to keep people playing too much. I like to feed them and give them plenty of wine or squash, depending how old they are. So home baking is always a big plus. I know not really Bridge related, but the amount of students that you'll bring in just by people go, oh my goodness, those brownies are phenomenal. Again, not really too bridge related, but it's all about keeping them coming and bringing more people back. The second most important one is I find that if you laugh at yourself, your students tend to fear mistakes less and less. So if you've got no self-shame and you've got no problem admitting if there's a mistake or if there's a common bridge error, not necessarily one that you've made or the beginners have made, but as long as you keep light-hearted and entertaining, then your students are going to feel absolutely comfortable with you. And again, if you feel comfortable, they're not scared of going wrong. They're more willing to give it a go, and that they're going to get stuck in. The last bit here, is it about bridge, is a bit of a scary question, really. I find, and I think a couple of you have said already, that a lot of these players are coming along to socialize, meet new people. So if you stand up there for 20, 30 minutes droning on about a weak no trump is 12-14 and a balanced hand, then they're going to go, oh, great, or can I talk to Jeremy? And then they'll fall asleep. They won't worry so much about what you're talking about. So if you keep it brief, keep it simple, get them stuck into the bridge and they can chat at the table, even if it's online in a Zoom breakout room or similar. But the faster they get to talk to each other, the faster you'll find that they actually start talking about the bridge to each other, which is quite a scary thing. You sort of trust your students. They've come along to learn bridge, but the most of the time they've come to actually have a chat and meet up with each other. Right, onwards and upwards. So these are the things I find put people off the most. So it's always worth finding out why your students don't want to come back. Most of these have been, Tim's lovely students from Winchester said pretty much all of these, which is quite encouraging for me at least. So people are very scared of going wrong, but again, if you're not scared to share your own mistakes, show your students that you're also a human, because they think that their bridge teachers are normally gods. How on earth do you understand this crazy game? So show them stuff that you get wrong as well and say, oh goodness, I'm not entirely sure about this either. Make them more relatable to you. The second thing is something I'm very scared of doing at the moment, which is saying things far too much and not letting them get stuck in with the cards. As Mark said, if you can get them playing cards immediately, that's the draw of the game. That's what you want them to be doing. So the faster you get them in there and the less time at the whiteboard, the better. Now, a slightly controversial point for teachers, because obviously, if we're being cynical, teaching is where our money comes from. So we want to pack our classrooms as full as we can so we can take our £10 per person, and more people, all the better for us. But if you actually split up your classes into slightly smaller bite-sized classes, yes, it costs you a bit more time, but your students get more out of you and they feel that they're worth more. So if you're in a class of 40, they think to themselves, oh, I'm just, part of the herd. I'm not going to put my hand up and ask a question. There are 39 other people here that obviously know exactly what's going on. Whereas if you bring it down to something even a small 16, 24, it's far easier for them to stand up and go, well, I'm not sure about this actually. Most of this all comes from giving your students reassurance. So every time they get something right, even if it's as basic as adding up their points correctly in their 6th week, brilliant. Let them know they've done a fantastic job and they're going to feel that warm, fuzzy feeling inside that we all love to have. And finally, pacing, again, something I'm struggling with in this presentation a little bit, I think. You've got to make sure you're going at the right pace for your students. It's one of the most difficult things for a bridge teacher. You've got a varied standard of students, especially in a big class, is to try and keep everyone going together. So there was a lovely idea I saw in the chat, which was that you've got the fast players, you give them a pack of cards and off they go, they play on their own whilst the others are catching. I think that's brilliant. I love that. But in general, what I tend to do is I tend to go for a middle ground, and then for the slower students, go towards those when they're playing the hands to give them the extra support that they need. The fast players pick it up like that. They're the ones are going to be in the club in 5-6 weeks after you get started. Okay, maybe not that quick, but they're going to understand and they're going to be able to help out the other students. So you want to sort of split them around the group so that you've got some supporters in your students helping the other students as you go along. And then you yourself can pick up any of the, should we call stragglers. But obviously they're all there to learn, all there to have fun. So if they don't necessarily understand it to start with, it's very important that you don't sound frustrated, which is very easy to do when your student doesn't get it. You just have to keep trying different techniques and keep the positive energy going. As soon as you get that, I can't believe you don't know an 8 is 4, your student's going to give up. They're never going to want to come back. Right. Literally. Oh, we've got our hand again. Hopefully you've come up with an answer by now, but no worries if you haven't. I haven't come up with an answer. I don't know what I'd do. So what I like to do is, because I hate these sort of stand-up whiteboard presentations, I always give them something to do during that sort of mini seminar. So even if it's just a handout with a couple of questions on, even if it's, you know, what would you bid on this hand, even if it's example hands going on the board, I want my students constantly engaged, because they all fall asleep, let's be honest. Most of the time your teaching is late in the evening, and they all think, oh, this is a nice glass of wine. Oh, is he talking about something? So if you can keep them thinking about what you're talking about, it's going to make sure they stay awake long enough to start playing cards. And the last thing, which I think EBED and EBE are brilliant to help with, is this introduction to club bridge. Now, I think there's a lot of learn and play, gentle duplicates, supervised duplicates, all of those are brilliant. And of course, all your students, if you're an EBED teacher, get 1 year free membership. So the faster you bring them into a club, and if you play with them in a club, don't forget, if you're scared about your grade, don't be. But if you are, that they get 150 boards before they affect anyone else's grade. So play with your beginners, take them to a club, play with them, and they'll feel a lot more confident and comfortable about joining that club with their friends. Once you've shown them that it's not so big, bad and scary, they'll go along. So don't be scared to get in there, get your hands dirty, and show them what a wonderful world it is. That's it from me. Hopefully short and swift.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shai. I think we all want to come and join your classes now. I hope you've got some vacancies, because that wine and tidbits looks absolutely delicious. Right, so thank you. That's brilliant. I'd like to hear a bit more. We've mentioned online a little bit, but we haven't really focused on it. But we have Jane from Bewdley here, who is going to tell us a bit about an entirely online teaching program that they do with great success there. So Jane, hopefully you are here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, so can I share my screen straight away? Oh,
you can.
Lovely. Okay, I hope that's clear. Can you all hear me? Yes, lovely. I'm representing Eileen, who's our teacher at Bewdley. Eileen can't be with us today, so she's given me some slides which I'll go through. And I think we've been asked to talk about the success at Bewdley Bridge Club, which is in Worcestershire, because we do all our teaching online, and at the moment we have 115 members, and 18% of those have come through Eileen's lessons. So we're thriving largely because of our teaching programme, which is all online. And also all our regular sessions at the Bridge Club are online now, which I'll talk about a bit later. We use RealBridge. So I'm going to go through some of these slides quite quickly. When Eileen starts teaching, she does a lesson on Zoom to begin with, but an important part of that is she sends out some pre-lesson coursework, if you like, homework, sends them a quiz to do and tells them which pages in the yellow book to read as well. So they're all quite well prepared for the lesson, which she does on Zoom. When she goes through the lesson, when she comes up to the examples that they've prepared in advance, she gets them individually to unmute and talk through the answers. So it's quite they do actually participate. It's not a very dull, boring PowerPoint presentation. And again, like the previous speaker said, Eileen's very lively. She gives lots of praise and encouragement. There's a lot of laughing going on. It's really good fun. When she's finished the lesson on Zoom, which usually takes about half an hour, I think, she has questions and answers. Then she sends them away for about 10 minutes for a break, and then gets them to come back on RealBridge. Now, at the club, we all love RealBridge. I mean, we do, we've really taken to it since the beginning of lockdown. And RealBridge itself has improved over that time as well. So Eileen has uploaded some hands-on RealBridge based on the subject they've just covered that morning. They all log on to RealBridge. Eileen is obviously a director there, and she supports the players as they play through they usually play eight hands for this session. And the beauty of obviously teaching online is that everyone can see everyone else's play. So when every hand is finished, you can analyse it, look through it. And I don't know about the rest of you, but we've certainly found
playing online as a club improves everyone's bridge, improves our bidding, our play. It's just wonderful. Anyway, they bid and play the hands, and obviously Eileen encourages them a lot as well. They talk through all the hands afterwards, and at the end of each session, she emails them copies of all the hands with a full commentary of the bidding and the play. So we find it's a very thorough, effective way of teaching, and they all seem to have a really good time. It works really well. I'll go through this bit very quickly. These are just examples of Eileen's slides, really. It's fairly standard teaching with a PowerPoint. These would be the examples she sent them in advance. So they've all had a chance to look through and come up. And even if they get them wrong, like the previous speaker said, you still find there's always something to compliment them on and to encourage them. It's very easy. Now, this is probably the bit that people are most interested in. It's transitioning to the bridge club itself. Now, at Bewdley, the only regular sessions we have now are on real bridge. We have 3 duplicate sessions on Monday afternoon, Wednesday and Thursday evening. And they are obviously the more serious sessions. We've got a wide variety of skills, some county level players and some relatively new players. And they're very competitive. What's important, I think, is that we have regular fun sessions 3 mornings a week, just for an hour at 9 o'clock or 9:15. And I tend to play in these as well as some of the evenings. We started these during lockdown when people obviously didn't have a lot to do and we were desperate to play bridge. And luckily we had some members in the club who were very good with IT, and they got us onto online playing straight away. These sessions, Eileen gets her improvers. Once they've been playing quite a while, she gets her improvers to come along to these fun sessions. So although they're very competitive, they're also really friendly. You know, they look at their notes and they discuss the hands with the other players. Eileen or somebody else like me, we often play with one of the improvers the first few sessions, so they get into it, they get the hang of it. Because it's online, that you haven't got the same level of intimidation that you used to get when you joined a physical club, a face-to-face club. Because I remember when I first started, you were always worried about the etiquette. You got some players who weren't very friendly. The advantage of playing online is that no one can revoke, you can't lead out of turn, you can't bid out of turn. So much of it is made easier for you. So we find that because the learners have been playing on real bridge during their learning process anyway, the next step up to one of these fun sessions isn't that big a leap, especially when they're playing with Eileen or the other people they've got to know in the sessions as well, or someone like me who I often help with the sessions. And somebody, I think the person from Ipswich was talking about face-to-face being more sociable. We find at Bewdley it's the opposite. Not saying we were unfriendly in the first place, but when we're playing on real bridge, you've got 4 people sitting there who you might have known before in the past. I mean, I knew most of them already. You've got 4 people sitting there who talk. We look at each other, we're talking as if we're in the same room. When we finished each hand, we can have a little chat. If we finish quickly, we have a chat. When you're at the club, you cannot talk like that because other people are playing. So we have found that we know each other far better through playing 2 years of lockdown online than we ever did when we were playing 10 years at the club. Now, I know that's a bit counterintuitive, but that's how we find it's much more sociable. And as a result, we have the occasional face-to-face session, which are they're not brilliantly attended. We've recently had a bridge holiday with the club. 40 of us went away and played bridge for 3 days together. So there's still room for face-to-face, but we don't do it on a regular basis. So the membership subscription works like this at Bewdley. We now charge, depending on how often you want to play and whether you want to play in the fun type sessions. So if you wanted to play in you wanted to play in more than one evening a week and more than one morning a week, you would pay a maximum of £100 for 6 months, which would be £4 a week. But what Eileen also offers her learners is that they can have a closed session on RealBridge any time of the day or evening that she sets up for them, sometimes with set hands. So 4 of them might say, well, we really want to practice our no trump bidding. Could we have a session? She sets them up. One of them will be a director, and they can run the session together. So basically, Bewdley effectively is almost an online club now. We've got more members than we've ever had. We've got members who've moved away to Cornwall, say, still come back and play with us online. And we've got a constant stream of new learners coming in and really enjoying the game. So I hope that's explained a different setup, and that's how it works at Bewdley.
Thanks so much, Jane. That's really interesting. Nice to see some of the advantages of online spelt out. I know we could do a similar one on the advantages of face-to-face, just to reassure everybody we love Bridge in all its forms. I want to hand over now to Tony Russ, who's going to tell us a bit about what the EBU board is planning for us in the coming year for supporting clubs in their teaching endeavours. Tony.
Yeah, just remember to unmute. Thank you, Tim. And thanks, everybody. Thanks, Tim, for setting this thing up. I think it's been a fantastic success so far. And I was really interested in the presentations from all the presenters. Particularly, I want to find out from Charlie what I should have opened on that hand that he gave us the example of. I've been thinking about that since then. And thanks, obviously, to all of you for turning up. Because it makes it successful. I'm particularly pleased to see the 4 people from Somerset who are here. Hello, Somerset. And I want to say hello to Jane Taylor, who I haven't seen, Joan Taylor, for at least 20 years in Keswick. So hello, Joan. It's lovely to see you. And maybe we can talk later. The great thing about this, of course, is the sharing of ideas and examples. I'm not going to say good practice, because there's many good practices, but examples of successful practices. And they're the things that we really need to learn from. There are various things, you know, big clubs and little clubs, completely different situation is what you can do. Your own facility, not your own facility. If you're teaching in a village hall, it's much different to how the options that are available to you if you're at Cheltenham Bridge Club, for example. But I'd just like to share my screen. I hope this is going to work. You're going to tell me now if you can see that. Can we see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, I've forgotten how to get. I'm trying to get rid of the
If you click in the down the bottom, just to the left of where you've got the zoom in and out, right down the bottom on further right. If you want to go to full screen, if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
3 to the right of that. To the left of the zoom. To the left. Yeah,
F5
left.
will do it as well. F5.
No.
Yeah, I'm on a Mac, so that probably
right.
won't work.
Listen to Jonathan.
Tony,
You can see
right,
that,
right
so
at the
that's
bottom.
fine. Sorry?
Right to the bottom, you've got the slider for zooming in and out, and then it's just one icon to the left of that. The one icon to the left of that. Yeah, that one. No, just to the left of that. That one. Yeah.
Top left.
Oh, round of applause for Jonathan. Thank you. So I'm going very briefly back to the beginning where Tim started us off. We're highlighting what the problem is, that we're getting older, and the success of our clubs, if we look at the statistics that we have, are operating at about 50% in terms of numbers that pre-COVID. So obviously the situation is going to depend on 2 things. We need to recruit more players. That's one issue, but certainly teaching new players is, I think, an absolute priority, has been highlighted by this session. The Education Working Group of the board has consulted with lots of teachers and lots of clubs with the aim of learning from people who are actually doing it and learn from the successes. And here's a quote from Cheltenham, Nicola Renshaw from Cheltenham Bridge Club. And she say, if it weren't for the Cheltenham Bridge Club is a big and successful club. If it wasn't for the teaching programme after the last 5 to 6 years, we'd be struggling as a club. And now they're not. And so the lesson is very clear that teaching players revives your club, makes people enthusiastic, brings in new players, and it is a very great thing. So is teaching available at your club? Well, there's a plethora of reasons why it not be. I shan't read down there, but you might have no teacher, no facility, don't know how to do it, a bit worried about setting up a program. And so what we're looking at the EBU is setting up, recognizing that some clubs need help to set up a teaching program. There are various strategies which can be employed. You can do it, as we've learned this morning, on your own or with others. We can do it face-to-face or online, using Zoom, using RealBridge. Help is on the way in a 3-part non-prescriptive program. So what we're proposing, or producing rather, is a menu of possibilities that will help a teacher, a club that wishes to set up a teaching program. So right back at the beginning, I think Tim said that how would you deal with a phone call from somebody who rang up and said, I want to learn bridge, can I learn bridge at your club? It would be nice if you were able to say, yes, we have a teaching program with ourselves or with another club, and it will start on this date and that date, and this is how you're going to, we would like to be able to in a position to help clubs who are worried how to set up such a program. And basically, in very simple terms, it's a 3-stage program: before, during, and after. Help with how you find a teacher, help with the venue, how do you find your students? These are practical issues which worry people about how you actually set up a teaching program. During the program, what resources do we need? Are we going to use Zoom? Are we going to RealBridge? Are we going to use EBED's red book, for example? What resources are we going to teach? And most crucially, as has been highlighted here, how are we going to make sure that the students that we teach move into being EBU members at our club? So that's what we're working on, and that's what we'll be producing digitally in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. And thank you to everybody for coming today. Really appreciate you spending the time. We know your time is precious. I hope everyone found something of interest. Would like to invite any questions or comments. Equally, if people, have to go because they've got things to do, we're not trying to keep you here. So yeah, any feedback, comments, what we should do next time, questions for the presenters who've been able to stay with us, over to you. There's a raised hand on Zoom, or you can just speak a minute since there's no competition.
Can I ask Mark Humphris, do you run a course for the quick start approach to bridge, as opposed to the 1 year, 2 years? I think that must off-put a lot of learners. I think it's going to take that long to learn, but the quick launch into the game is probably going to be more acceptable to people.
Can I ask my colleague, Lorna's on the call. I think Lorna might be better equipped to answer that. I think she knows more about that space than I do. Lorna, are you around?
Hi, yes. Yeah, happy to answer. Yeah. So on the club teacher training course, there is quite a big focus on actual teaching skills and using the material that we've got on offer. So obviously that material includes what's often called the red book, which is a sort of the traditional longer program of learning bridge, where a student might join and be a year or two in classes. We've got another book which was aimed at, which when it was brought out a few years ago was aimed at a faster approach. And really what you learn on the club teacher training course are teaching skills, so that you can pick up the material and know how to teach that material. And it's really then up to the teacher to choose how fast they want to deliver the material. So some material, when it's a faster course, it is usually by necessity having to skip over some of the detail. And you're absolutely right that sometimes people are put off the idea of bridge because they think, oh, it's, they think it's like signing up for a degree course. They're going to be still there in 3 years' time. They want something that's faster. Then, there is a faster program available. But obviously, in order to deliver a faster program, then you do have to you know, concentrate on the main concepts rather than going into the minutiae of you know, a bidding system. And you also have to kind of let students have the freedom to just guess and make mistakes, which is a very important part of teaching bridge anyway. But obviously in a more condensed program, you are, you know, letting them fly earlier on. And, you know, to go back to another point that was made that Tim has very admirably made, is that if you put people onto a fast course, then you still have to think about where they are going to play at the end of that course. So, you know, progression is all important. So you have to have a session that they can move into.
Okay,
does that answer your question?
I think so, thank you.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question? Tim Harrison, Kendal. On this point, we've had pretty successful teaching programs using the 2-year course, but there's a fair amount of debate going on locally about whether the 1-year course would be more productive, because we don't have the capacity at the moment to start a 2-year course every year. So I wondered if there was experience around the table here of clubs that have run the first-year course, and whether you need supplementary sessions, for example, to get students through it to an appropriate level. I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, it is. David, do you have your hand up? Is that for answering that or for some other topic?
I think Adam was before me.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. I just want to know when I'm going to be able to have access again to the English Bridge School library of slides, which I found really useful in preparing lessons, and then they were withdrawn.
That's one for Lorna.
Okay. Okay, so the English Bridge School library of slides is actually available to all EBED teachers. So what we have, you know, you used the word withdrawn. When we first introduced this material, it was as the quickest response that we could make to a global pandemic lockdown, when people needed some material. And we set up some materials on a Google Drive. And what we actually discovered fairly early on was that many of our teachers actually just found it difficult to navigate. So I have still got the slides available, and they are available in they are set up in 2 classrooms, and the instructions on how to do that, how to actually access the slides, are in our teacher zone. And the teacher zone is a sort of private members area for teachers who are member of EBTA, which is the English Bridge Teachers Association, right? So you'll find the instructions in there on how to access the slides. And there are slides for enough lessons for the two books, red and green books, year 1 and 2 material. And in the slightly longer term, we're looking to try and find another technical solution which will make them available in an easier way. It will still be through our teacher zone, but we hope it will be an easier way, because some people did struggle with the Google Drive and the Google accounts issue.
Okay, thank you. David.
Can I just say it's an age. In fact, it's more than one age ago since I actually took a teacher course at EBSA. Could you just assure me that everybody that we've spoken to here is actually advocating both online teaching and face-to-face teaching? The basic teacher course does include the mechanics, shows you the mechanics of how to teach online, doesn't it?
Right, so well, Mark was just mentioning this before, so perhaps I'll let Mark mention.
I think it actually depends on each instructor will slightly vary the material that they teach. So we've got one running in North Lancashire this week with at Briarfield. I know the instructor there is not someone who's going to cover online teaching at all. It's not in his area of expertise, and it's not in his area of interest. Douglas, I know you're on the call. Douglas teaches some of our courses for us, and I know Douglas is a very strong advocate of online.
Well,
so we haven't.
Can I just say, don't you think that's very sad that you run the main teachers course doesn't show you how to teach online?
I don't know if I'd use such a strong adjective, David. I mean, I think what you've got to realize is we're a really small organization. We've got one full-time employee, so we are struggling to adapt our material and our content to, and I know there are suggestions out there, and I know you've been critical of what we've done before, David, and I do appreciate your constructive comments, but I wouldn't call it sad. I think it's just a limitation of the organization that we've currently got.
Well, I mean, I suppose it comes back to Tony Watson raised the question today. Why can't we have the basic teachers package given online? You're saying that you've actually got lots of potential teachers who can't get on courses because you've not got capacity. That would solve that problem at a stroke.
It would certainly help with that. I agree with that. We have a board of trustees, so we've got more trustees with EBED than we've actually got employees. We've got the trustees set the direction for our organisation. It's for them to tell me what I need to work on. At the moment, I'm working flat out on other stuff, so I don't have the capability yet. But that is something we would like to resolve, and it's potentially a priority, but right now it's not what we're working on.
Okay, thank you very much, both. Point made, David. Thank you very much. And talking of online, Shireen wanted to say something.
I have forgotten.
Yeah, I wanted to explain that throughout the summer, a group of people in Scotland had an initiative where they wanted to make sure that learners didn't drop the ball, because it's all too easy to find something else to do. I've certainly done that. I've picked up a hobby and dropped it and done something else because the course wasn't available, or the teacher wasn't available, or if it was an art class, that facility wasn't available. So they contacted us and they ran an open session. They had, I think it was on Tuesday nights for 2 hours, and they had 5 volunteers, all organised by Scotland. And I think the first one we had 17 tables, and people loved it. It just meant they could keep the momentum going. And then when the summer finished, they realised it was so successful, they decided to keep it going. So this is a sort of nationwide initiative, and it's not competing with the teachers, it's just another opportunity. It also means that if for whatever reason, either work, health or responsibilities, you couldn't make your own club's regular supervised class, you could always drop in. Now, what's happening is Middlesex are trialling this. We've got a 4-week pop-up supervised practice every Sunday afternoon at 2:30. And the idea is anyone can come along. You don't even have to be Middlesex people, but it's sort of centred around Middlesex. And we have volunteer supervised practice people. And so far, people are really enjoying it. We've managed the logistics of it very nicely. And there's another thing as well, that one of the other countries told me that sometimes learners, they don't really feel that they're part of either their county or their federation. They feel they're part of the teachers group. They feel, oh yes, Jan Smith, John Brown is my teacher, I'm under them, I belong to them, but they don't feel like they're part of Middlesex, or they don't feel like they're part of, I don't know, Kent, okay, as a county, because the county isn't an umbrella for a teaching-wide initiative. So by having this sort of county level supervised practice, they're meeting people who are perhaps 50, 100 miles away. They have something in common. Perhaps they know each other, or friends of friends, or they know about stuff that's going on, all right, within the region or the county. And I think it's just a nice way to provide a service
for learners, especially on the Sunday afternoon, which traditionally, unless you're interested in sports, has been a bit of a sort of gap in terms of telly. Anyway, just thought I'd pass that on and report back to see on the success. Already one other county got in touch with me and said, when can we do this? How do we
Thank
go
you very
about
much.
it?
Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you for all that Real Bridge is doing. It's appreciated by the community, I can assure you. So Alan, over to you.
Thanks, Tim. Just two quick questions. First of all, to Chris, why did you choose to use the libraries, and what service are they providing for you in your area? And second question for Lorna, are the fast track slides available as yet, Lorna?
Chris, are you still with us? Can you answer that question about the libraries? There is a recording of the session that you will have available, not immediately, but shortly after. I think he did kind of say about what he was doing with the libraries, but I know also that he'd be very open to getting inquiries via email or phone. I think the phone number's on the website. So I encourage you to follow up with him. I think it's a fantastic idea working with the libraries, because it just bridges, in the pun unintended, with the community in a great way. So yeah, now over to Lorna to answer the second part of your question. You're muted, Lorna. Lorna, you're muted.
Sorry. Testing your lip reading skills again there. A few years ago, somebody who I believe was in Yorkshire, I think, or Nottingham, I can't remember which, I think it was Nottingham.
It was Nottingham, it was Merlin Jones and the Keyworth Club made them available to the EBU.
Yeah, actually made some fast track of slides available through EBED, and they should still be in our teacher zone, but I need to check on that. At the time, I'll be honest, when all the hands were presented on the slides, it was kind of predated things like BBO hand viewer. And I think that the slides which had the hands play on could probably be improved. But if you drop me a line, Lorna at ebedcio.org.uk, then I will either send them to you or I'll, send you a link.
Thanks, Lorna. But I've had I've got the link. The Mervyn slides are locked such that you can't tweak them for your own presentations.
Okay, I'll see whether I can hack into them with a secret password if I can find the password. Again, drop me a message, and I'll see what I can do, because I think the point I've made about those slides, it was a fantastic resource at the time, but the way we present hand play now on slides is hugely improved. So there are much easier ways to do it.
Okay, thanks for your help as always, Lorna.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lorna. Douglas, I think you had your hand up for.
Thank you. I thought I'd try and answer Alan's question in the absence of Chris Green from Kesgrave in Ipswich. I had the pleasure of teaching one of the teachers who's instrumental in running the libraries scheme in Suffolk. They use the libraries for two purposes. One, the actual venue for the teaching of Bridge, and secondly, all the libraries in Suffolk for the promotion of Bridge. That's my understanding, Alan.
Brilliant. Thanks, Douglas.
Yeah, thanks so much. Mike. You're muted, Mike. Yeah, you're still muted, Mike. Just, yeah, there we are.
Right, okay, I was hunting for the unmute button. Yeah, I have taught Bridge a number of times over a long period. I'm currently engaged in doing it in a small way, but I have not done the formal teaching qualification, the EBED teaching qualification. Does that bar me from becoming a member of EBTA? Because I'm sure there's a load of material there which would help me to teach better and with a lot less effort as well, because I'm inventing hands and slides to go with them and all the rest of it, much of which has probably been invented already.
Right. No, we'd welcome you as a member of EBED, Mike. The application is on the EBED website. So if you go and look at the page which says teach, and then you look at the page which says EBTA, it will describe all the everything we've got to offer. We do often have people who join who've already got teaching experience. We even have people who've got some teaching experience who come on the club teacher training course as well, because teaching is not something you just learn and then you do it for, you've got it for life. It's a continual learning process. So as part of as a member of EBTA, obviously you would hear about other opportunities that we offer, any other seminars, webinars, Zoom meetings with things which might be of interest to teachers.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And thank you particularly to RealBridge for making life so much easier to do this sort of stuff online.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. Someone messaged me about teaching young people. I want to tell you that I think teaching young people is our highest priority as a Bridge community. So very, very important. It is a bit different than teaching adults for all sorts of reasons, and we will be doing some focus on that in the future. I'm not exactly sure what form that will take, but we think it's super important. Also, look out for the next English Bridge. We've got an interview there with Sue Johnson, who's doing some fantastic work teaching children in primary schools in North London. So yeah, that's kind of not an answer, but it is saying that we are passionately interested in the topic. Right, Mark.
Yeah, on the subject of teaching children, Mike Hickling, who's one of our teacher educators, he's running the course in Lancashire this weekend. He's actually adamant that course gives you a range of styles, which are a lot of which are ideal for teaching children. So if you are interested in teaching children Bridge, the teacher training course we offer should equip you with that. It's not all about putting boring stuff on whiteboards. Some of it's about more practical ways of teaching Bridge, and those are the kind of skills we're trying to get over in these training sessions. So so it's ideal for kids. So I fully recommend it if that's your area of interest.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Just one thing I've just thought of, because I made a note earlier when someone was asking about the Quick Start course. I'll just tell you my experience of how I used to recruit for my face-to-face courses, and I've been teaching Bridge for 16 years. So I always started with a taster session on the first mid-September, a free taster session, and in that taster session I taught mini Bridge basically. They had a pack of cards in their hand. They had cards in their hand within about 5 minutes of entering the room. They had an icebreaker quiz. I told them how to play mini Bridge, and I gave them some instructions. And at the end of that session, which was a normal sort of lesson, length about 2 hours, there was then a queue to the office to go and sign up for the course. So that is the huge benefit of short courses and tasters. So do that, and you'll have a queue joining your next course, and hopefully your Bridge club.
Thanks, Lorna. Doug, you had a hand up.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say thank you very much. This was a really useful session, and the thing I really liked was listening to the learners at the beginning, the people who were in the classes, and what they were saying about. And one thing about fearing people, I'd forgotten, sometimes we forget what it feels like when you're a beginner. I've recently started pitch and putt, and I like it when there's a good player playing with me, because you learn things from that, and maybe there's something there that the good players can remember they're teaching when they're playing at a club. And I sometimes only think about results instead of thinking, how can I contribute to beginners? So just wanted to say that, really.
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, really helpful. Anybody else want to chip in with any comments, feedback for us? Welcome your feedback for future sessions like this. We're happy to run them. We just want to make them as helpful as possible. So do tell us if there's topics you'd like to see covered that we haven't covered yet. We will do our best to do that. Also, would you like longer sessions? Would you like fewer topics and more focus? You know, that sort of thing would be helpful as well. Bob.
Sorry, I'm just unmuting myself. I hope everyone can hear. One thing that one of our club teachers has done to get learners to start thinking about the game more deeply and progress them is to use convention cards and to ask them to fill out with their partner a convention card and progress from the reams of notes that they refer to when they try to play. And I think that's a vital step towards getting into club bridge and making it to the duplicate. And they would probably feel a lot more prepared and confident to do that. And it's a good step on the way.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, convention cards, part of that transition that we were talking about, because they look pretty intimidating when you first see a convention card, I have to say, especially if it's one of those experts that's got like pages of notes attached. Fiona, you're muted at the moment. Yeah.
Hi, yeah, can I just comment? Because I am a student and in the middle, I've been listening to all of you as teachers and experienced players. Just quickly, no one's mentioned No Fear Bridge. I don't know where that fits in as a website and a learning tool, because that's what my teacher uses. And for our lessons and the book and practice sheets and things. But what isn't really put forward is there's so much choice when you're learning. You've all mentioned sites and Sharpbridge and things I'd never even heard of, and I've been sort of learning for a bit. The No Fear Bridge has sort of join up sessions that you can do by topic, which augment the lesson. I don't know people to play with without playing online, so I'm going to the club to play face to face. That's my personal situation, which is great, and the transition is great, but it gives you another layer of learning, that you're learning the topic week by week and you're put into room A or room B. You do a quiz to find out what level you're at. So I don't know, it's just not been mentioned though, for Bridge. I didn't know whether it was a bad thing or a good thing.
May I answer that? May I come back to Fiona on that question, please?
Sure, yes.
Fiona, you have raised a superb point. I've only been teaching bridge for 15 years, and I think No Fear Bridge is fantastic, fantastic for all students. It provides the tool for practice between lessons. It provides the tool for reinforcing the lessons. It provides the tool for solving a particular issue that students have, etc., etc. So I can't emphasize how good it is.
I agree. I don't think it's pushed enough, because the people I've learnt with, I've played for a while but not ever had lessons, so I'm a bit bad. But it reinforces the way it's consistent. So you know what you're doing, even if you're doing it wrongly, you know your mistakes. So when you actually get to the club, you can think, no, slow down, this is okay. And you can go back and practice, and you can join with other people across the country. I mean, I've played randomly with somebody in Scotland who's not my partner. We just turn up at the same time. And Lee Harding, I think, runs it. And she pops up all over the place to give informal advice when there's not enough players. And also on a Friday, it does Introduction to Gentle Duplicate, which I think would be the bridge between not quite having it in your lessons. I do 10 lessons at a time, then we're encouraged to do 10 supervised lessons on the subjects that we've just done in our 10-week course from the Red Book and the Green Book. And that's, for me, has worked. And it seems the other students here, we all seem to be going through it together. Some are on Tuesdays and Fridays, and then we all blast our way to Winchester Bridge Club, which is what's happening at the moment. And we're all sitting on this, going into full membership. So for me, everything you're saying is really happening where I am, and it's really, really nice, and it's really supportive and really kind. And there are so many opportunities to play. But yeah, No Fear Bridge, I think the other people in my classes don't seem to know how well it can support what I'm being taught from my.
Yeah, thank you very much. It does sort of give me an idea. First of all, don't read anything into the fact that we didn't talk about No Fear Bridge. I mean, No Fear Bridge is absolutely fantastic. It gives me an idea that maybe we should do one of these sessions and have 15 minutes each from some of the key people like No Fear Bridge and Sharpbridge and others to sort of present those resources. I don't know if that would be helpful, but it is certainly something we could lay on. They change all the time and improve all the time, of course, which is, so even if you kind of knew what it was like 3 years ago, it'd be different now and perhaps have more things that are useful. So it's just an idea, but yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I agree, it's a super resource. Thank you. Anybody else? You're probably all gasping for coffee now. We've done an hour and a half. So well done, everybody. Yeah, and do have a look at the chat if you haven't already. There's some resources there that people have kindly linked and a couple of questions that you may be able to help with. Maria, perhaps the last contribution. You're muted at the moment, Maria. It's blue dots at the right-hand side and you can unmute. Or the microphone icon at the bottom will do as well. Yeah, that's it. You can
just
speak now.
Just picking up on what the last person said about the No Fear Bridge. EBED members of the teachers get free access to No Fear Bridge for their teaching programme. Just let people know. That's another resource that we actually have. And also we can give our students a 3 months free trial. So it is there, it's part of the EBED teaching programme, is No Fear Bridge. Just to let everybody know that. And the other thing I wanted to say really is one of the problems we've had with some of the resources from EBED is that the slides are absolutely wonderful. They're really, really good. They're mainly aimed at online teaching. We're teaching face-to-face and we can't actually do any alterations to them. And I've had loads of conversations with Lorna about this. And but it's not really very helpful and we're having to redo the slides ourselves now. But that would be great if we could actually have access to them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. They sound like problems that we could solve between us. So maybe Lorna, you could speak to me outside the meeting. We'll see if we can do anything about that. Right. Thank you very much. Any final words? I don't want to cut anybody off. We've got stuff to say, but equally I don't want to keep you here longer than you want to be here. So last chance. Well, thank you so much for coming along. Really appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. I've learned stuff. So yeah, I think big thank you to all our presenters, especially for giving up their time. And just to remind you, they will follow up if you have any specifics. And if you're stuck contacting them, contact me, tim@ebu.co.uk, and I will put you in touch with each other. Thank you.
And a big thank you to Tim for organising it.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.